Good day and welcome back to your Vitality Project. I'm Dr. Bob and I want to welcome you. Thanks for joining me. In our most recent exercise, we worked on unpacking difficult emotions. And what I mean by unpacking is that we worked at identifying different cognitive components that oftentimes underlie and also evoke or trigger emotional states. So we looked at cognitive requirements, we looked at negative storylines, we looked at the depressor, any self-talk related to the depressor versus the fixer. All of this language is embedded in our previous several units or modules now of posts and videos, and I encourage you to go back and access those if the language is not familiar to you. But what we've talked about over these last several months is that all of these different aspects of our thoughts / emotions, that they actively aid and abet our ups and downs cognitively and emotionally. They really affect how we feel. So let me ask you, how'd you do with the exercise? I hope that you found it useful. And so for today, what I'd like to do is let's add just one little layer. And if you've been with me, you'll be able to predict where we're going next. I think this will be something you can enjoy. And if you haven't been with me, just sit and enjoy, all right? Why don't we exercise the skills that we've also learned when we approach such difficulties? And the goal here is to maintain emotional balance. And we've been doing that. We've been helping to do that, to move from what we call red alert brain, where we're activated by our thoughts and our feelings, and moving into resting brain, where we have a little bit more space to move. Do you remember the beaker analogy that I shared? There's a little bit more breathing room in the larger beaker, and that's what this next exercise helps to provide, a little bit of breathing space for you. So what we're going to do is we're going to start by just I'm going to invite you to take 5 minutes. I'll give you the instructions and you'll do the exercise on your own. 5 minutes to center and ground your mind and your body through mindfulness of the breath. It's a very simple instruction. If you haven't done it before, let me just briefly cover it. And the key here is not to read about it, is to actually practice it. So you'll start by closing your eyes and then begin to slowly breathe in through your nose. As you breathe in, you'll notice that your stomach slightly rises, and when you breathe out, it slightly falls. So what we want you to do is to pay attention to that rising and falling. As you're doing that, various thoughts will arise. That's normal as can be. Sensations may come up for you, a desire to scratch an itch, for example. And when your mind wanders to either thoughts or sensations, do what you can to gently return your attention just simply to the rising and falling of your stomach with each mindful breath. Now, those are the instructions. I'd like you to do that. And once you've done that, then I want you to come back and review your notes from yesterday's exercise. Remember, we created an emotion map. Come back to that same map. Take a look at your list of thoughts that you listed there. For example, any activated requirements that might have gotten going for you around the particular thorny emotion that you picked. This time, though, after having completed this 5-minute stress release exercise, mindfulness of the breath, I'd like you to make note of any changes that you may have noticed in any of your thought processes, the various thoughts that you identified yesterday. Are there any changes just as a function of having hopefully moved more into a resting brain perspective on those thoughts? I'd like also for you to pay attention to the overall tone of that difficult emotion that you identified yesterday as you're reading about your notes from yesterday, as you're reading about that emotion. Take note of how that emotion may have shifted some in terms of its quality or its tone. And then finally, also make note of your physical stress level and compare that with yesterday. Remember that we talked about a way to identify stress on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being completely relaxed, 10 being completely stressed out. See where you are today and compare those notes with yesterday. We'll pick right up with this tomorrow when we come back the next time, okay, to discuss more about how we can build these skills into being able to really manage our emotional lives with resilience. I want to thank you for joining me. I wish that you will please stay safe, take good care, be well, and I'll see you again soon.